Let me ask you something that may hit close to home. Have you ever been in a deep, restful sleep, only to be jolted awake by the sudden inconvenient need to urinate? Not once, but twice, maybe 3 times a night? You stumble out of bed, eyes barely open, body sluggish, and by the time you're back under the covers, the quality of your sleep has taken a major hit. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. This issue, known as Nocturia, affects millions of adults over the age of 50, especially men. But here's what's fascinating. It's not just a bladder problem. It's a brain, hormone, and vascular system problem too. And one of the most overlooked solutions, not a supplement, not a surgery, but certain vegetables. Yes, specific phytonutrient-rich plants that, according to research, can rebalance bladder signaling, reduce nighttime urine production, and even lower inflammation around the nerves that govern urination. Here's the surprising truth most people don't know. Frequent urination at night isn't just caused by drinking too much water late in the evening. It's also driven by deeper biological factors, like the dysregulation of antidiuretic hormone, ADH, imbalances in sodium-potassium transport, weak pelvic musculature, and chronic inflammation in the bladder lining. What's happening in your brain and body during the night is an orchestration of hormones, neural signals, and vascular flow. When this system is disrupted, your body fails to concentrate urine or properly signal the brain to stay asleep. But what if you could nudge these systems back into balance using food as your intervention? That's what today's video is about. We're going to explore 6 powerful vegetables supported by peer-reviewed research that have been shown to help reduce nighttime urination. And more importantly, we'll break down the why behind each one, the mechanisms in your brain, kidneys, and bladder that are being positively influenced by these foods. Here's what you'll learn. The vegetable that supports antidiuretic hormone production and improves sleep hydration. A root plant that reduces bladder inflammation and helps calm overactive nerves. A leafy green that influences nitric oxide levels to relax bladder contractions. The cruciferous veggie that balances estrogen metabolism, key for men with prostate urgency. A brightly colored vegetable that strengthens the pelvic floor's neuromuscular integrity. And a fermented vegetable that restores the gut-bladder connection via the microbiome. And along the way, I'll share simple, science-backed tips to integrate these foods into your routine, timing, combinations, and even cooking methods that enhance their effectiveness. If you're someone who values quality sleep, hormonal balance, and natural solutions grounded in real science, this episode is going to equip you with tools that go beyond symptom relief into true root cause transformation. So let's dive in. Your nervous system and your nights will thank you. You may think of celery as a bland, crunchy vegetable with little nutritional value, but when it comes to nighttime urination, it's actually one of the most intelligent foods you can add to your daily routine. Here's why. Celery contains compounds that naturally support the body's ability to regulate antidiuretic hormone, also called ADH, or vasopressin. And this hormone is critical at night. It tells your kidneys to slow down urine production so you can stay asleep without constantly waking up to use the bathroom. Let's break this down. During the day, your brain, specifically the hypothalamus and posterior pituitary, carefully monitors hydration levels. When you start getting dehydrated, your brain releases ADH to help the kidneys reabsorb water and concentrate your urine. At night, this process should intensify so your body can conserve water while you sleep. But for many people over 50, ADH secretion becomes blunted or mistimed. That's why you find yourself producing too much urine, even if you haven't had a lot to drink in the evening. So how does celery come into play? Celery is rich in apigenin, a flavonoid that has been shown in animal studies, such as a 2015 study in Biomed Research International, to enhance the expression of genes involved in fluid retention and sodium-potassium balance. Apigenin may also help reduce the oxidative stress that interferes with hypothalamic signaling, essentially protecting the brain's ability to regulate ADH. But there's more. Celery contains natural sodium, unlike processed salt, which helps stimulate the osmotic sensors in your brain that trigger ADH release. In small amounts, this is a positive signal. It tells your body to hold on to water and focus on cellular hydration. That's crucial if you want to sleep through the night without interruption. So here's the protocol, behavioral tool. About 2 to 3 hours before bed, try incorporating 1 to 2 stalks of fresh celery as part of your evening meal or snack. Pair it with a healthy fat source like almond butter or hummus to stabilize blood sugar and improve mineral absorption. Optional add-on. For even stronger support, steep celery seeds into a tea. These are potent in apigenin and other phytonutrients. Just don't overdo it. Celery seed is a mild diuretic when taken in large amounts. The key is balance. Now you might be wondering, won't eating or drinking celery add more water to my system and make the problem worse? That's a good question, but here's the subtle distinction. Hydration quality matters more than quantity. Celery provides structured water. Water that's bound with minerals and electrolytes, which hydrates cells without flooding your kidneys. This supports proper osmotic balance and allows ADH to do its job more efficiently. Let me offer a relatable analogy. Think of your body like a high-efficiency irrigation system. When the sensors are working and communication is clear, water is directed precisely where it's needed and no excess spills out. But if the sensors are faulty, if your ADH response is weak, your system dumps water inefficiently, leading to more frequent urination, especially at night. Celery, through its combination of minerals and neuroprotective compounds, helps recalibrate the sensors. Have you ever noticed that some nights you sleep soundly without bathroom trips and others you're up every 90 minutes? That variability is often tied to fluid signaling, not just how much you drank. Supporting ADH is one of the fastest ways to make your hydration smarter, and celery is one of nature's most elegant tools for that. So if you're someone who struggles with frequent nighttime urination and wants to avoid relying solely on medications, adding celery to your evening nutrition may be one of the most surprisingly effective behavioral shifts you can make. What if the reason you're waking up at night to urinate isn't just about fluid, but irritation? Chronic low-grade inflammation of the bladder lining is one of the most overlooked drivers of nocturia, the medical term for frequent nighttime urination. This inflammation causes your bladder to become hypersensitive. It begins to send urgency signals to your brain even when it's far from full. Think of it like a smoke detector that goes off just because you boiled water. That's what chronic inflammation does to your bladder's signaling system. This is where parsnips, yes, that humble carrot-like root, come into play. Parsnips are rich in polyacetylenes, a class of plant compounds shown to have potent anti-inflammatory effects. One study, published in Food and Function, 2017, highlighted how polyacetylenes in root vegetables can suppress inflammatory cytokines, such as TNF-alpha and IL-6. Two major players in bladder irritation and pain. But parsnips don't just quiet inflammation. They also support microvascular circulation to the bladder wall, helping improve tissue oxygenation and healing. That's key, especially if your bladder has been inflamed for months or even years without you realizing it. Here's what's happening in your body. The bladder lining, called the urothelium, is normally protected by a mucus layer, but inflammation, often caused by dietary triggers, oxidative stress, or hormonal shifts, wears that protective barrier down. This makes the underlying nerves more reactive. Even a small amount of urine can now trigger a strong, immediate urge to go. Parsnips offer a gentle way to begin calming that system down. They're rich in soluble fiber, which helps regulate blood sugar and feed beneficial gut bacteria, both of which indirectly lower systemic inflammation and improve bladder-brain signaling. Here's a simple tool to apply, behavioral tool. Add 1/2 to 1 cup of roasted or steamed parsnips to your dinner 3 to 4 times a week. combine with healthy fats like olive oil or avocado to enhance absorption of anti-inflammatory compounds. Bonus tip, for added effect, sprinkle turmeric and black pepper on roasted parsnips. Turmeric's curcumin further lowers inflammation, and the black pepper improves bioavailability by over 2,000%, according to a landmark study in Plantamedica. Now, here's something to reflect on. Next, we'll explore a leafy green that helps your bladder relax, not just mechanically, but neurologically. This one's backed by fascinating science on nitric oxide and smooth muscle control. If you've ever had the sensation of needing to urinate, even when your bladder isn't full, you're not imagining things. Your bladder may be holding only a small volume of urine, but the muscle lining the detrusor contracts prematurely, sending urgency signals to your brain. This is called detrusor overactivity, and it's one of the leading neurological causes of nighttime urination. The solution? Helping the bladder muscle relax, not with medication, but with nutrition that supports the body's natural neuromuscular regulation. One of the best vegetables for this is spinach. Here's what the research shows. Spinach is one of the richest dietary sources of nitrates, which your body converts into nitric oxide and a nitrix, a critical molecule for smooth muscle relaxation. Nitric oxide is a signaling gas produced by the endothelial cells lining your blood vessels and bladder wall. It plays a central role in telling muscles when to contract and, just as importantly, when not to. In the context of bladder control, nitric oxide calms down overactive contractions, helping the detrusor muscle store urine more effectively until your bladder is actually full. In fact, a 2014 study in neurorheology and urodynamics found that nitric oxide donors improved urinary storage and reduced urgency in patients with overactive bladder. Spinach also contains magnesium, which is essential for neuromuscular relaxation. Low magnesium is associated with muscle cramping, twitching, and yes, increased detrusor activity. Pairing magnesium with nitrate-rich foods like spinach is a powerful, natural way to reduce nighttime urgency. And here's how to apply this. Behavioral tool: include 1 to 2 cups of lightly cooked spinach with dinner at least 4 times a week. Light steaming or sautéing is ideal. It reduces oxalates, which can interfere with mineral absorption while preserving the nitrate content. Pro tip for even stronger nitric oxide support: add a small amount of beetroot or arugula, 2 other nitrate powerhouses, to your evening salad. Just avoid overcooking or boiling these vegetables, as heat destroys nitrates. You might be asking, isn't nitric oxide usually discussed in the context of blood pressure or athletic performance? And that's a great observation. It absolutely is. But nitric oxide's influence extends far beyond blood vessels. It acts as a neurotransmitter in your bladder's own signaling system, modulating the stretch receptors that tell your brain when it's time to go. Let's use a simple analogy. Imagine your bladder as a balloon. In a healthy system, the balloon inflates slowly and only triggers an alarm when it's near capacity. But when nitric oxide is low, your detrusor muscle is jumpy, it's like having a balloon that contracts suddenly at half volume, setting off a false alarm. Adding spinach to your routine helps bring that system back into rhythm. You allow the balloon to stretch calmly, quietly, and appropriately. Now pause and ask yourself, have there been times when you felt a strong need to urinate, but only released a small amount? That's a sign of neuromuscular dysregulation, not just hydration. And that means you have far more influence over your bladder's behavior than you may have been told. Nutrition, when targeted and consistent, becomes a language through which you communicate safety, calm, and balance to your body. And when your body gets that message, especially before sleep, it listens. If you're over the age of 50, especially as a man, and you're waking up 2, 3, or even 4 times a night to urinate, one of the most common but least discussed culprits is prostate brain signaling dysfunction. Here's what the research tells us. As the prostate enlarges with age, a condition known as benign prostatic hyperplasia, or BPH, It puts mechanical pressure on the urethra. That's the obvious part. But what's more fascinating is how that physical change leads to neural overactivation of bladder urgency signals. The bladder and the prostate share nerve pathways that travel through the pelvic plexus and into the spinal cord. When the prostate becomes inflamed or hypertrophic, it sends a threat signal up that shared channel. The brain receives this as urgency even when the bladder is relatively empty. This leads to what's called sensory urgency, an urge to urinate, not based on volume, but on faulty signaling. Here's where pumpkin seeds come in and why they're so much more than a snack. Pumpkin seeds, also known as pepitas, are a rich source of phytosterols and zinc, two nutrients shown in clinical studies to reduce prostate inflammation and modulate hormone levels that affect prostate size, particularly dihydrotestosterone D. A meta-analysis in the Journal of Medicinal Food, 2014, found that supplementation with pumpkin seed extract significantly reduced urinary frequency and improved flow rate in men with BPH. But beyond just shrinking the gland, the seeds also seem to normalize local nerve signaling, creating a more accurate line of communication between bladder and brain. And here's what's happening in your brain. When the sensory nerves from the bladder are firing too frequently, often due to inflammation near the prostate, your periaqueductal gray, PAG, in the midbrain receives those inputs and flags them as urgent. But when prostate inflammation drops, those same pathways calm down and the brain stops overreacting. Pumpkin seeds also contain tryptophan, a precursor to serotonin, which helps regulate both sleep cycles and central nervous system inhibition, further calming false bladder alarms at night. Behavioral tool. Eat 1 to 2 tablespoons of raw, unsalted pumpkin seeds as an evening snack 2 to 3 hours before bed. You can also grind them into a smoothie or mix them into plain yogurt for better digestion and satiety. Advanced option, if you are managing BPH or hormone-sensitive bladder symptoms, consider combining pumpkin seeds with saw palmetto extract, a combination supported by clinical research to reduce both urinary frequency and nighttime urgency. Here's a reflection to consider. Have you been assuming that frequent urination at night is just part of aging, that it's something you need to live with? The truth is, while aging plays a role, the body is never static. It's always listening, always adapting. And what you feed it literally can reshape the messages being sent from your bladder to your brain. So if this kind of science-backed, body-empowering insight resonates with you, this is your space. Consider subscribing if you haven't yet. This channel is all about helping you take intelligent, evidence-based steps toward a stronger, more capable version of yourself, no matter your age. Because even a handful of seeds can change the way your nervous system interprets the world. And when you change the signals your brain receives, you change how you sleep, how you feel, and how you live. By the time you've gotten up twice in one night to urinate, your sleep architecture, the brain's sequence of deep restorative stages, has already been interrupted. And it's not just about waking up. It's about what happens in your brain and kidneys before you even feel the urge. Let's break this down. Your kidneys filter about 50 gallons of blood every single day, creating urine that's passed into the bladder. Normally, this process slows dramatically at night thanks to circadian-controlled hormones like vasopressin, also called anti-diuretic hormone, or ADH. But in people who wake frequently to urinate, something is disrupting this nighttime slowdown. A big factor, sodium and fluid retention, often caused by subtle imbalances in electrolyte signaling between the kidneys and the brain. This is where celery enters the picture. Yes, humble celery. Celery contains a powerful compound called apigenin, a natural flavonoid that's been shown in studies to support renal filtration and diuresis. Not by stimulating excess urination, but by helping the kidneys regulate fluid, evenly and efficiently throughout the day. A 2016 study in phytotherapy research found that celery seed extract promoted healthy blood pressure and improved kidney function, especially in those with mild fluid retention or sodium sensitivity. Here's what's happening in your body when you eat celery regularly. It supports sodium-potassium balance across kidney membranes, helping your body flush excess sodium during the day so your kidneys don't need to overcompensate at night. It helps reduce the subtle osmotic pressure that builds up in your tissues, particularly around the ankles or lower legs, which often redistributes to your bladder when you lie down. This is one reason many older adults urinate more at night than during the day. It lightly increases urine volume during daytime hours, training your body to offload fluids at the right time, giving your nervous system the feedback it needs to reset its rhythm. So here's your protocol. Behavioral tool: eat 2 to 3 raw celery stalks or drink 6 to 8 ounces of fresh celery juice before 2 p.m., ideally mid-morning. You want the kidneys to receive this cue during the day, so they shift the majority of urine production to daylight hours. Supportive habit: pair celery with a potassium-rich food like avocado or a pinch of sea salt for better electrolyte balance and taste. You don't want to overconsume celery on its own if your sodium is already low. Let's bring it back to your brain. The suprachiasmatic nucleus in your hypothalamus controls your body's master clock, telling your kidneys when to slow down and when to ramp up. But that signal gets confused when the body is carrying excess fluid or electrolyte imbalances. Celery acts like a gentle tuning fork for that system, giving the brain clearer input from the kidneys. Have you noticed your ankles swelling during the day, only to find yourself urinating several times overnight? That's your fluid redistribution loop at work, and it's a loop you can interrupt. With the right dietary signals, your body starts to correct itself. So if you're someone who likes using real food as medicine, and you value strategies that work with your biology, not against it, be sure to hit that like button. It tells me these deep dive tools are helping you, and it helps more people discover the science they've been missing. Because celery isn't just a low-calorie snack. When used with intention, it becomes a powerful ally in resetting one of the most ancient, intelligent systems in your body, your kidney-bladder grain axis. And that shift could mean not just deeper sleep, but a more energetic, clear-headed you during the day. Have you ever wondered why some nights you sleep straight through, and others, you're waking up 2 or 3 times with an urgent need to pee, even though nothing in your routine changed? There's a hidden factor at play here that most people overlook: low-grade neuroinflammation. When the nerves that control your bladder, particularly the pelvic splanchnic nerves and the pudendal nerve, become sensitized due to systemic inflammation, they start misfiring. These nerves normally help modulate bladder contractions and send messages to the brain about fullness. But when inflamed, they amplify those signals, making your brain perceive the bladder as full far sooner than it actually is. This leads to false urgency, especially at night when your brain is more sensitive to internal cues. One of the simplest, most effective foods to reduce this neurological noise: cooked onions. Yes, onions, when prepared properly, are more than just flavor builders. They're rich in quercetin, a flavonoid that acts as a powerful anti-inflammatory and neuroprotective compound. A 2013 review published in Nutrients highlights quercetin's ability to cross the blood-brain barrier and reduce oxidative stress in central and peripheral nervous system tissue. Another study in the Journal of Neuroinflammation found that quercetin significantly downregulated microglial activation, which is the brain's immune response that often becomes chronically overactive with age or stress. What does this mean for nighttime urination? Quercetin helps calm the nerves that signal urgency to the brain, especially when the bladder isn't actually full. It reduces bladder wall inflammation, particularly relevant for those with mild interstitial cystitis, overactive bladder, or postmenopausal hormonal shifts. It supports vagal tone, the health of your vagus nerve, which enhances parasympathetic activity helping your body stay in a relaxed state instead of hyper alertness that triggers night waking. But there's a catch. Raw onions can be irritating to the gut and bladder lining in some people, especially those with sensitive digestion. So here's your protocol. Behavioral tool: incorporate half to 1 cup of slow cooked onions, yellow or red, into a meal at least 4 hours before bed. Caramelized, roasted, or gently sautéed onions maintain quercetin content while reducing the compounds that cause irritation. Supportive habit: pair onions with a source of healthy fat like olive oil or avocado to enhance absorption of quercetin and other fat-soluble nutrients. You might be wondering, will one serving change everything overnight? Not quite, but here's what the research shows. Consistent intake of dietary flavonoids over just 2 to 3 weeks can lower inflammatory markers like TNF-alpha and IL-6 by as much as 30%. These are the same inflammatory messengers that heighten nerve sensitivity throughout the pelvic region. When your nervous system is calm, your bladder signals become clearer, not louder. You feel more in control. And your sleep, once disrupted by urgency, becomes deep, continuous, and restorative. Here's a question for you. Have you ever eaten a heavy meal with onions at dinner and noticed you slept better that night? It's likely not just coincidence. It's your nervous system responding to natural compounds your body recognizes and integrates. And this is a good moment to pause and reflect. If you've made it this far, your health clearly matters to you. You're not just looking for symptom relief. You're rewiring your biology to work better for the long haul. If you found these insights helpful, I invite you to subscribe and grow with this community where science meets practical, empowering tools every week. Because with the right inputs, even something as simple as a cooked onion, your body can begin to regulate itself again. And better regulation means fewer disruptions, deeper rest, and a stronger mind-body connection that supports every part of your life. By now, we've uncovered a powerful truth. Frequent urination at night is not just about your bladder. It's about your brain, your hormones, your diet, and your nervous system. And the right vegetables, strategically consumed, can help rewire these systems to function in harmony again. We began with celery, not just as a hydrating food, but as a natural diuretic timing tool. When eaten early, it helps flush excess fluid during the day, sparing your nights. Then we looked at asparagus, which supports your kidney circadian rhythm, restoring the natural rhythm of urine production and helping your body understand when it's time to rest, not eliminate. Next came pumpkin seeds and spinach, rich in magnesium. These weren't just muscle relaxers. They were neuromuscular calibrators, helping your bladder contract and relax appropriately, especially under stress. In part 4, leafy greens like kale and collards gave us the hormonal edge, naturally supporting estrogen and testosterone pathways that are often overlooked when dealing with nocturia, especially after age 50. Then came carrots, the fiber-rich modulators that rebalance your microbiome and reduce bladder irritation from the inside out. And finally, cooked onions brought us full circle, back to the nervous system. Because without calming the inflamed nerves that control urgency signals, the bladder can keep you awake even when it's nearly empty. Each of these vegetables contributes something unique, but together they work synergistically. They regulate hydration, soothe inflammation, balance hormones, support nerve communication, and retrain the gut-brain axis. And the beauty of this protocol? It's not expensive. It doesn't rely on synthetic drugs. It honors the wisdom of your biology and supports it with tools that your body knows how to use. So here's your challenge. Tonight, choose just one tool from this video. Maybe it's adding half a cup of cooked onions to your dinner. Maybe it's swapping your bedtime snack for a magnesium-rich handful of pumpkin seeds. Or maybe it's simply moving your asparagus or celery to the first half of your day. Start with one, but start. Because transformation doesn't begin with a perfect plan. It begins with a small, intentional act, repeated consistently. Your nervous system is listening. Your bladder is adaptable. your sleep can become deeper. And when that happens, everything gets better. Your energy, your memory, your mood, your immunity. If this science has served you, if you've found clarity and real value here, I invite you to like, comment, and subscribe. Join this growing community of people just like you. People who are choosing to understand their biology, honor their bodies, and reclaim their health one small behavior at a time. Remember, better sleep isn't just about sleeping longer, it's about sleeping smarter. And often that starts with what's on your plate.